Hello and welcome to the USA Volleyball Show, the official podcast of USA Volleyball. My name is Stephen Munson, joined today by Severin Lavenstein. Severin, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Stephen.
By the time we're recording this.
Yeah, hey, either time, always great to be on with you.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was fantastic because it ended with an Ohio State victory in the national championship for football, which was awesome. My brother goes to Ohio State. He's a fencer there. And it was funny. He FaceTimed me from the party scene there, and it was unreal. So I was a little nervous towards the end, but that was a fun way to cap off the weekend.
Was he at the game or just there in town watching with friends?
He was definitely not at the game, and if you saw those ticket prices, I think that's definitely outside of at least a college kid's realm. She's definitely following the ramen and late nights categories there at Ohio State. He's coming up on exam season already, which is crazy. But no, I think it was a bunch of watch parties over there in Columbus. Obviously, we go there a lot for different junior events that we have. Always loved Columbus. It's such a great town. Yeah, I mean, down that High Street area is fantastic. I had a opportunity to go there a couple times this past year. And Columbus is always great when we go there. And especially now, I can't imagine what that whole thing looks like. Somehow, Stephen, he didn't have classes off today. And I was like, how is that even possible?
Oh, what?
I know, right? I figured the first thing they do is cancel class after that.
University president needs to get on that.
But no,
they need to be like the slip that they a doctor's note almost, like so they can just fill out. But
I think some of those meme formats are always funny when you see like the emails back to professors and what they say back on those kind of things is funny. So that was my weekend, but I hope yours was good as well.
Yeah, it was good. Just trying to stay warm here in Colorado. We were like in the single digits, pushing below zero, at night here, but in the Denver area. But I had a great weekend. It was a good time to just have an excuse to stay inside and stay home and get some chores done, which was good. It doesn't sound fun, but it is fun when you finally get those things done and off your list.
Definitely. Those are the adult responsibilities we all have to do.
Exactly. Yep. But it was a great weekend and glad that your brother's Buckeyes won and good luck to him in exams too coming up. That's funny. That's crazy that it's already coming up there for you.
I don't even have a concept of what an exam calendar looks like anymore, so can't relate anymore.
That's awesome. Well, before we get into today's episode, if you haven't listened to episode 112, still crazy that we're just over 100 episodes, but be sure to download it right now as you're listening to this episode, then go back and check it out. In our exclusive first interview with newly announced U.S. Women's National Team head coach Eric Sullivan, he shares his excitement for the new role and what it means to him now being involved with USA Volleyball for 30 plus years. He also shares his coaching philosophy and much, much more. Don't miss that episode. Listen or watch now on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and usavolleyball.org. Now, really excited for this new segment. Let's get right into it. This is the men's collegiate roundup. Working on the name here still, Severin, but let's get right into it. Severin, take it away.
Yeah, brand new segment for you listeners of the USA Volleyball Show. And we're going to talk a little bit about the men's college roundup, the whole men's college scene right now. First, by giving you a brief glimpse of the top 5. New after the preseason rankings, which do feature a little bit of a shift, but just right through the list. Long Beach State, number 1. UC Irvine, number 2. UCLA drops from preseason 1 to preseason number 3. Then it's Hawaii and BYU rounding out the top 5. The reason for that drop is because we had the First Point Collegiate Challenge over the weekend in Austin, Texas. And it was a shocker to some that Ohio State was able to kind of pull an upset, if you will, number 13 over number 1 against UCLA, but not a shocker to all because, of course, this happened last year, Stephen, before UCLA went on their run to a back-to-back championship in 2024. So not unprecedented, but a little surprising going into this 2025 season. Elsewhere, Long Beach State went undefeated in their sort of Midwest road trip to start the season, I guess you could call it. They're the new number 1 up from preseason number 2, which included a 3-1 win over number 12 Lewis. So that's their highlight sort of standout win from that road trip. And I was keeping an eye on Hawaii, 6-0 to start the year. Obviously lost Chakas from last year after that devastating knee injury, but also just he was such a great kind of senior leadership for them. And they were really I would say, a powerhouse throughout the season. They're always really good every year, but some people may be thinking, oh, it's new guard. We'll see how Hawaii does. But clearly the polls didn't think so, because they were number 4 preseason, and they stayed that way after this first weekend, off to that great start. And just another one, too, for you. Number 9, Stanford lost only 1 set at the First Point Challenge. They earned wins over Ohio State and Penn State. Theo Snowy from our U21 national team, match high 15 kills versus Penn State. And I'd be remiss if I didn't go back to just quickly that UCLA and Ohio State matchup. More U21 national team stars. Zach Rama, career high 21 kills in the loss, and Shane Wetzel 10 kills to lead the Buckeyes. And then finally, Penn State, a little bit of a shaky start, 0-3. They lost to UCLA they lost 0-3 to UCLA and 1-3 to Stanford. But Owen Rose, 7 kills, Ryan Merck, 8 digs. Those are guys from our national teams as well. And just to round out the segment, maybe some matches to keep an eye on for all you folks. UCLA is back at home versus UCSD on the 23rd. Stanford, they're going to be against number 2 UCI, January 31st and February 1st. Long Beach, they're at Pepperdine, number 11 in the rankings currently, January 26th. And then the last one for you is Hawaii at number 5, BYU, their first real big test, Stephen, of this year, January 31st to February 1st. This is just a little taste, a little snapshot, but if you want more, keep an eye out for my Men's College Roundup, the written edition that's coming later this week. I'm working on it currently. And just tune into all these games that will have more details on where you can watch, when you can watch. It's going to be a great men's college season. Men's college season, Stephen, if I can speak. Don't worry, I don't have to speak for the written version. You can read all of it. You don't have to listen to me.
Yeah, and the written version will be available on usavolleyball.org. Is that weekly?
It is. The plan is weekly. Yes.
Awesome. Sweet. That's great. And I was able to catch a little bit of that First Point Challenge when it was on ESPNU. I think it was that first match. And such a great production they had going on there. And it was kind of a who's who in the volleyball community in the crowd there, which was kind of fun. Of course, John Sparrow was there taking in the action. You had Mick Haley and many other big names in the volleyball community. But they kept pointing to that on the broadcast and talking about it, because it seemed like everybody was tuning in to that challenge, whether it was on TV or there in person. So that's really cool. And yeah,
we always like to shout out how great of a city Austin is for hosting volleyball events. But I always think this First Point Challenge, since it's been around, is such a great way to really start the season. Obviously, some teams start the season in other ways, but I always look at it as sort of like the official beginning to the new season.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, looking forward to your updates each week here on the podcast and the written form on our website. And just looking forward to a great men's collegiate season as well. Are you looking to go to any of these matches? I know several of them are kind of in your backyard there in California.
I will. I'm going to keep sort of the specific matches under wraps for now, so you can be surprised when you see some of those matchups coming up. But stay tuned for around February. Got about 4 circled on the calendar there, possibly 5. And then as we advance further into the season, there's some really great matchups here in Southern California. Obviously, won't be able to get to everything, but sort of highlighting the key matchups that we might be able to go to, sort of picturing where the standings might be in these big games. Obviously, we're going to be looking at some rematches from last year that caused some big highlight matches, if you will. So yeah, stay tuned. February is really when we're going to start kicking things up there to maybe see some of my face at some of these matches.
And even reveal the details to me. I guess I'm just going to have to wait too. But looking forward to those updates, Severin. Thank you so much for talking about men's collegiate volleyball with us. Moving on to the pro side of things. Of course, we're headed into week 3 of both LOVB, Love, League One Volleyball, and the Pro Volleyball Federation, PVF. And be sure to check USA Volleyball social media and our calendar at usavolleyball.org each week for schedule updates. Of course, looking at the rankings right now on the Pro Volleyball Federation side, Indy Ignite is just having a great start to their year, undefeated right now, 3-0, and looking really good. Vegas Thrill right behind them at 3-1. So this is it's shaping out to be a really good season for PVF. And just watching, online on YouTube or wherever you're tuning in, great crowds too, and it just seems like between PVF and League One Volleyball, we're just seeing record crowds each time. A new record being broken with attendance. So people are tuning in and really excited for these leagues. And then, just keeping things moving on with the League One volleyball. Love Omaha doing really well, 2-0. I believe they've only dropped one set so far. So of course, Jordan Larson there leading that squad in Nebraska. And then right behind them, Love Houston at 2-1 with Jordan Thompson leading that squad. So again, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy for these matches. Man, who was I watching? I was watching Love Madison and Love Salt Lake. And I think that one went to 5. It was last Wednesday, I believe. And that crowd was insane. And it was in Madison, and just such a fun match. A lot of back and forth between those two squads. But it was just really cool to see just the crowd and the fans show up for that and just get so excited for this league and their teams. But we'll keep you updated on our social media, USA Volleyball, and be sure to tune in to usavolleyball.org as well. We'll have scheduled updates for that on our calendar. Just looking at some highlight performances on the pro side too, across both our domestic leagues and international. Looking at Micah Hancock with Love Houston, had 40 assists, 12 digs, and added 4 aces in their win against Love Salt Lake. And then heading overseas, TJ DeFalco with JTech Stings in Japan put up a season high 39 points on 35 kills, 2 blocks, 2 aces in the 5-set win against Hiroshima. TJ absolutely going off there in Japan, and that was his season high. His season high so far over there in Japan. So a lot of great performances across the board, but just wanted to highlight those two specifically. And we're looking forward to continuing to bring updates both on the men's collegiate side with Severin and talking about pro news as well on our upcoming podcast. But let's jump into today's episode. Back at the AVCA Convention in December, we had a chance to chat with Sarah Conklin, First Point Volleyball Foundation director. We talked about her background in volleyball, her work in the boys volleyball space, including First Point Volleyball Foundation, how the boys volleyball landscape is growing, and much more. So let's jump right into it. Here's our conversation with Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us. I know it's a crazy weekend. We like to call weekends like this Volleypalooza. Thanks to Karch for giving us that phrase. But thank you so much. We're excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, you guys. This is exciting. I love the setup, and you're right. It is. I've never heard Volleypalooza, but I will adopt that as well, because it's a little bit of amazing chaos, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly how he described it. But we're at the 2024 AVCA Convention in Louisville, Kentucky. The NCAA D1 Women's Volleyball Championship is going on in tandem with that as well. But for you, I guess, what's your role here this weekend at the convention?
Yeah, it's a great question. I am lucky enough to wear a lot of hats in the volleyball world. But today and this week, I am here to talk about boys volleyball and the growth of boys volleyball in my state and nationally, and best practices on how to do that and implement that in your region.
Okay.
Well, I mean, talking about the many hats you wear too, you're the director of the North Carolina Boys Volleyball Association. You're currently the head boys coach at Weddington High School, if I pronounced that
Go
correctly.
Warriors. Yep.
And then you're also on the Carolina Region Board of Directors too. So how has all of that, how have you fallen into all of that? Those are a lot of hats to wear, a lot of roles there too. Was there like a starting point that kind of, one thing led to another, or, someone knew someone, or, you're like me where you're always just trying to have an impact anywhere and everywhere as possible? How did all this kind of come together?
Well, I think my boys volleyball journey started unexpectedly. I always coached our oldest daughter. She blew her knee out, so I thought we were done. I know, right? I passed down janky ligaments, not good. And then all of a sudden, our oldest son said, "Mom, I want to play volleyball." I was like, "Whoa, cool. CVC in Charlotte has boys, amazing." He's like, "No, I want to play for my school." I was like, "Bud, that doesn't exist." He's like, "Well, can't we just start it?" And that one question has completely reoriented the next almost decade of our lives. All three of our boys play volleyball. And I think, just like you mentioned, making an impact, I think when you're passionate about something in the volleyball world, it's noticed. And there's a lot of need for people that are passionate about growing their corner of the game. And so I think that's how it happened.
I love that. that question from your son, can we just start it?
Can we just start it?
It's just that simple, right? Yeah.
So simple. And he has no idea the storm he
Yeah.
created.
Yeah.
We're getting those questions. So I coached and run the high school volleyball program at my school called Van Lewis Academy, girls volleyball, and all the guys, all the students around like, hey coach, when are we gonna have a boys team? I'm like, harder during that time of frame too. But yeah, it was like, why can't we just start it? I wish it was that easy.
Well, and it's sanctioned in Colorado now.
It is sanctioned in Colorado too. Now they just need to staff it on our end too.
Right. Yeah.
That's the issue. But
that's a great. The more I learn, and that's one thing I love about AVCA is that everybody comes together, so you can kind of learn the challenges. Our goal in North Carolina is to sanction it, but what other challenges does that create once you do sanction it? And I've learned from other states that it is challenging, and sometimes the growth stops when it's sanctioned because everybody kind of takes their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, but we still need to grow. There's areas, Illinois has been sanctioned for a long time. Central Illinois, it's a desert. There's no boys volleyball there. So I'm glad you say that, because it is something that we're considering and that we're hoping to tackle in the coming years.
I guess for you, and maybe drawing from your experience with your sons too, but how did you go about starting a boys program, and how can someone, a listener maybe listening to this episode now, how can they go about starting a boys program?
I think the first step would be reaching out to First Point. So you can contact me at sarah@firstpointvolleyball.com. The reason is because we have a whole network of coaches in all of the states. So there's people on the ground doing grassroots effort in every single state, even Alaska. There's actually, she's one of my college teammates, which is pretty fun.
Cool.
But one of the things we've done at First Point I'm so proud of is connecting everyone so that they have a place to commiserate, because it's very challenging to get started. They also have a place where we can encourage them and celebrate their wins, because it's an exciting thing to be a part of. We've seen in the numbers, the data shows that high school growth feeds club growth, and so it benefits everyone. It's kind of a rising tide situation.
Right. Yeah.
What are some of those key growth factors, or KPIs, or just key indicators that you have seen trickle in and contribute to the growth of boys volleyball over the recent years?
So it's interesting because each state has its own mandate, right? So for instance, South Carolina only needs 16 high schools to achieve sanctioning status. In North Carolina, we need 110 for 2 different seasons, consecutive seasons. Maine needs 40. Maine includes private and public schools. North Carolina is just public schools. So it's each one is unique.
That's
but when I talked about how somebody gets started, we have most of those resources, so we can give them guidance when they call from Nebraska or Texas on how to get the ball rolling. And if we don't know, we'll find out.
Yeah. Just a total side note here too. I'm from Long Beach, California too. So like when growing up, volleyball's always been sanctioned in high school. It's always been around, and I just wasn't really in the culture. I was a football player, and then once I kind of started to immerse myself in volleyball, it's like, wow, there's club, there's this, there's that. And then I moved to Colorado 4 years ago, and I think it was newly sanctioned there within the year or so, but within the past year or so. And don't fact check me on that one. I'm just kind of talking here, but just seeing how they've even grown from district teams to programs having their own teams, and you don't have to go to this school because this is the only district team you could be part of. And then being immersed in the girls volleyball club world, seeing and meeting officials, coaches, influencers, and all these other people who are really all in on growing the game of boys volleyball, noticing that it's not sanctioned around in every state, and hearing everything that you have to kind of go through, and the state requirements and this and that too, and seeing that the game is still growing as rapidly as it is. How do you feel about that?
I'm thrilled. And with First Point, I'm on the board, but I'm also co-chair of the high school growth committee. So we talk, I'm talking to Nebraska later today, and I'm a problem solver by nature. I've got kind of entrepreneur mind. So when I see a problem, I love to figure it out and tackle it. And I think in every corner of USA volleyball, or volleyball in general, those things exist. And I think that seeing the growth has been so exciting. And also meeting parents are leading the way, guys. You get a mom or a dad whose kid wants to play volleyball, they will hustle and they will make it happen. But to your point about sanctioned states, it's always been sanctioned. I'll talk to people from California. Our boys played in San Diego at a JC, and I would talk to some of the parents. They're like, what do you mean it's not sanctioned? What do you mean it's not a thing? Like, that blows their mind. They can't even wrap their mind around it. And when I first started, I would get things like, well, boys don't play volleyball. It's a girls' sport. And so we still have to change that stereotype. I'm getting that less and less, especially in North Carolina. But in like the SEC football states, it's a problem. Yeah, it's something to overcome.
I mean, there was like a few talks of that here and there, like the high school that I was around too. But like my comment on that is, if you walk into any nationals or any boys volleyball tournament, high school or that, and especially when there's different, you got the open level play, everything there. That court 1, 8 a.m. It is a physical game. It is an aggressive game, and there's a draw to it. And if you're not paying attention, you talk about taking a hard hit in football or a charge in basketball. Take a one tempo ball or run from an outside or whatever it is, and you're concussed and you're out for a few months, if not longer, too. So boys volleyball is definitely up there as one of the more physical sports.
I think it's also growing in popularity because not every guy is built to play football. Not every guy is built to play lacrosse where you're ramming in together. But to your point about it being a speed game and intense, like, it's almost like isolated aggression. Yeah. Right? I don't have somebody on me. That's one reason I came to volleyball, because I played basketball, but then I played volleyball. I'm like, oh, I can be intense, but I don't have somebody on me. I just did not enjoy that at all. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And, I fell in love with the game immediately. And I think that's what we're seeing on the boys' side. Once they get in the gym, they're hooked. It does not take long for these guys to get hooked on the game. And you came to us from football world, so you get it.
Yeah, you did football first and found volleyball. I played just about every sport I could. Volleyball wasn't around in Dallas, Texas when I was growing up, but found it shortly after going to college and joined my collegiate club team, Texas State. And just like that, I walked in the gym and I was like, I have to do this. I have to be a part of this. This is so fun. If you're a listener, go watch a men's national team match when you have the opportunity, when they're in town at a USA Volleyball Cup or Volleyball Nations League. Definitely go check it out, because you're going to be blown away at the physicality and how athletic those guys are.
Yeah. I mean, you hear a little bit about how Steven was introduced to the game, how I was introduced to the game, but how were you introduced to the game of volleyball? Where did it all begin for you?
Where did it all begin? So I was a corporate brat, so I moved around a lot with my parents' jobs, but we landed in Indiana. I was in 8th grade, and I liked volleyball, but just gym class stuff. We all know Munciana, and I was introduced from my high school team to that club world and was hooked. I loved the discipline of it. I loved the fundamentals. I loved the training, and that's where it all started clicking, and I was just all in after that.
Muncie, Indiana is just like volleyball, like, it's crazy there, right?
It is crazy, and I think, in my opinion, they train the whole player.
Yeah.
So like when I coach, I train volleyball players. I don't train positions. So my middles are setting, my liberos are hitting.
Mm-hmm.
We train everything all the time. And I think it's important, especially, not everybody's going to play in college. A lot of my guys do go play club, which they love. What an amazing offering that those D1 schools have, or D2 even, but they get to go to nationals, they get to play at a high level and still be around the game, because it's growing on the men's side too. It'll get there, but those opportunities just aren't as widespread as the women's game right now.
And kind of before we touch on what was your introduction to coaching, I mean, your volleyball career took you pretty far too. I mean, when did you really realize that you were when did you get hooked to the game? Like, when did that, I don't want to say obsession, let's say healthy, let's call it that, healthy obsession in the game of volleyball. And when did you realize you can really take it to the next level too? Because on top of that, you did play D1 as well.
I did, and it was a goal. But I had this great coach in high school. I moved down to South Carolina my sophomore year in high school, and they were respectfully way behind Munciana and Muncie in general. However, I had a very self-aware coach that said, I know I have talent on this court. I wasn't the only one, but I know I have talent on this court. I need to outsource. And so she brought in really talented coaches that would come kind of guest coach practices. And this coach, who was coach of the year, came to the practice. I was so excited. And we were running drills and doing that. And she pulled me over and she's like, hey, you've got some talent here, but if you keep not touching the line and not being a leader, you're not going to make D1. Is that what you want to do? I said, yes, ma'am. You better start stepping up your game. And that's when it just clicked. I'm like, somebody believes in me. Somebody sees it. I'm going to make this happen. And I was very lucky to go play in college and play D1. And, we were in Conference USA at the time. So we got to play teams like Louisville, Cincinnati, Memphis. It was an incredible experience, very challenging experience. But I think, we talk about grit. It's become quite the buzzword in the past year or so.
Yeah.
But I think especially college sports teaches you grit. It teaches you to embrace the suck of waking up for a 6 a.m. practice, dragging yourself out of bed when you don't want to, writing that paper on the bus when you don't want to. And that's dating myself. I didn't have a laptop on the bus. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It develops skills that you're going to need forever. And I think, especially in the boys' world, there's not that many D1 opportunities. Right. I mean, unless you're top of the top of the top. But I would say that you develop those skills at any level, right? You could play D2, D3, NAIA. You're still managing your time. You're still learning to be an adult in that way, where you're disciplined and learning time management and how to work as a team.
Just really quick note for our listeners, we're filming this at the AVCA Convention. It's setup day, so we're going to hear some forklifts, some carts rolling by. But
I'm glad you said that. I was wondering how Curtis was managing the slams every once in a while.
These mics are very good, so they kind of just direct to us, but you'll hear a little bit in the background. But just wanted our listeners to know, who aren't watching the video episodes, they wouldn't necessarily know what's going on behind us. But I guess moving things forward, and we've talked a lot about the First Point Foundation, but we haven't really introduced like what you do for the First Point Foundation. You're the board of directors. I guess for our listeners who aren't familiar with it, give us a little rundown of what that foundation is.
Sure. So First Point Volleyball was founded by John Spara and Wade Gerard in 2016, really with three main goals: growing the boys game, growing the men's game, and the diversity piece that was missing in boys volleyball. And it's been such a great experience to be a part of that team, because in general, our volleyball community is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like I guess I'm a little biased, but we're pretty great people.
I agree. I might be biased too, but I agree.
You guys are amazing. But we just find a way to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when a problem or a hurdle presents itself, it's so fun to be in a room where everyone wants to accomplish that goal and make it happen.
Right.
And that's been the greatest part about being at First Point. I touched on earlier with the high school growth committee. My co-chair is Kenny Rogers. He's an awesome dude. And we just work with connecting states, providing resources. And I think that has really made a difference.
So I was going to ask, what's been your favorite moment or favorite contributing factor to, being on the First Point Foundation? Is it that problem solving aspect, or is there another factor that you haven't talked about yet?
Why they asked me to be on the board? Is that bribery? No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't have a great answer for that. I think when you're building something, you just put one foot in front of the other. And I think hard workers recognize other hard workers and passion. And I think when you see that in someone else, you're like, I want to go to war with that person. Let's make them a part of our team. And I like to hope that, me just showing up and being consistent is one of the reasons that they wanted me to be a part of the team.
First Point Foundation and USA Volleyball collectively donated, is the right word, or $1 million to the Southern Intercollegiate Conference. And that was huge. Those programs were able to have a season, had a championship too. What, I guess, how else has the First Point Foundation helped boys and men's volleyball, maybe even specifically focusing on boys and kind of that grassroots level?
Yeah, I think it's not just support factor again.
Yeah.
It's making sure they know they have resources and that will help them find the answers they need. I think sometimes you feel like you're on an island when you're trying to build boys volleyball. I know I did in North Carolina. I didn't have someone to ask, what are my next steps? What did Indiana do what did Colorado do to get sanctioned? What do I need to do? And who do I need to talk to? And I can't speak enough of how huge that is to have someone you can text or email that's like, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried talking to all of your girls coaches in your state? Because when a girls coach is involved, it's nearly automatic, at least in my state it is. I mean, it's, they get on board, it's smooth sailing. I can almost count them as a team, which we are going to hit our sanctioning number this year. I'm manifesting. I'm putting it out in the universe. We've got 13 more schools to add. Okay. We've got 55 on the maybe list, so it's going to happen. But once the ball gets rolling, it doesn't stop. I know that if we hit that number this year, it won't go backwards. So it's very exciting. On the men's side, there's a lot of fun stuff coming down the pipe. I think the Southwest Boys Invitational, Southwest Boys Tournament, is that what it's called? Southwest Boys Tournament in Austin in January also has the college showcase where they've got Ohio State, Stanford, Penn State, and UCLA just bawling out against each other. And what a cool opportunities for these young men to see all these D1 programs just battle. And they do an amazing job. The production value is incredible. You've got Mick Haley doing the play-by-play last year.
That's cool.
All the logos are in the Terraflex. It's top notch, and I think that's what First Point is bringing to the men's side and the boys side, just to see that you're a part of something really exciting. And this is, get on the rocket ship because it's taking off.
I mean, are there any other emerging ideas or concepts that you or First Point is looking to really initiate in 2025 and beyond to continue to help this growth, whether it's sanctioned in high school or on the college side of things?
So you want to see behind the curtain? Is that what you're asking? You want to see? Okay, all right. So currently, I'm inspired by what the NFL is doing with girls flag football. So it has kind of piqued my interest to. At least in North Carolina, we've started an abbreviated season turnkey package for certain conferences or counties, and some have taken us up on it. So you're talking 8 teams at a time, 6 teams at a time, and that is, talk about accelerated growth. It's amazing. And it's a very low price point. Volleyball is a sunk cost sport. You've got the net, you've got an empty gym in the spring, unless it rains. You've got the balls because NFHS has not sanctioned the textured ball yet. Shout out to NFHS. Let's sanction that ball. But Point Bay. And a lot of new teams repurpose uniforms that they already have in storage. So it's a very low price point to get going. So I believe with the right amount of coordination and funding, we could really, I was going to say press the gas pedal again, but I've already said that. So we could really accelerate boys' growth and achieve our goal. Our goal is 100,000 boys playing boys volleyball in high school by 2028 Olympics. By NFHS numbers, we've got 87,000 and some change right now.
Oh, wow.
But that doesn't include states like North Carolina and Georgia that aren't sanctioned. So I've got at least 3,000 boys playing. So that goal, that part of our goal, I think we're going to blow past. No problem. The goal of having 50 states sanctioned by 2028 is far more lofty. And I think a program like an abbreviated season, turnkey, here's your package, here's how you do it, could be the solution there.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us and talk through all this. This is a very exciting time for our sport, specifically on the boys and men's side too. But for is there anything that we've left on the table that you want to talk about or share, about First Point, or about your work that you're doing?
I think that, reaching out, knowing there's a resource. Coaching boys volleyball is very different than coaching girls. Yeah. It's very exciting. It tests your patience, definitely. But I think if you embrace the the courage that it takes for a young man to come into, especially a lot of my guys come to me as a sophomore, junior in high school. Maybe they played other sports, maybe they didn't, but the amount of vulnerability it requires to come in and learn a sport that requires you to pass with your forearms, which nobody grows up doing that, is amazing. So it kind of attracts a guy that's willing to take risks, he's willing to mess up. And that's one thing I say to my guys when they come in my gym. One thing I know is going to happen is you're going to make mistakes, and I'm totally cool with that. Let's just keep the effort there. And I think it helps them realize that failure isn't fatal, that they can make mistakes, and we fail forward, we make that happen. And I think what I would love to offer coaches that are developing the game that maybe come from the girls' world, that to embrace that. And if you want to talk it through, shoot me an email and we'll set up a call to talk it through. But that's the kind of resources that we provide, is that kind of one-on-one coaching, if you will, because it's hard, and it's hard to rack your brain, and they'll forget how to sub. You guys coach boys, they forget to go behind the 10-foot line. They forget how to sub, even though they know it, right? Because they're learning so many things. Their body's learning things, their mind's learning things. And but I think we're going to see that we're developing a lot of leaders, maybe not in the volleyball world, hopefully in the volleyball world, but in general, I think boys volleyball is going to create a lot of strong leaders in the future. I do have one thing.
Yeah.
So, you know that saying, I come bearing gifts.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I come bearing gift. It's a limited edition, one of a kind, and you guys can rock, paper, scissors for it.
Oh.
I'll open it for you.
Oh, this is exciting.
Very exciting.
First, too.
A first on our podcast, I think.
It's a one of a kind.
Ooh.
Check it. Amazing.
Wow, for the camera. Yeah. Wow. First Point Volleyball Foundation.
So you've got. So I feel like
throw your medicine ball in there.
Nice.
There you go. So let's do it. Rock, paper, scissors.
Doing
Who's
it right
going to
here on
win?
the
Yeah.
camera,
Let's
okay.
do
Doing
it.
best 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
First round.
One and done. Maybe one and done on shoot, or
On shoot?
or
Yeah,
1, 2, 3 shoot.
shoot.
Yeah. Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors for serve. Here we go.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All yours.
Big winner. Yes.
There you go, Clarence.
Winner,
Congratulations.
chicken dinner.
Put this.
Thank you so much.
You're
That was so
welcome.
nice. Yeah.
You're welcome.
We have a podcast shirt for you as well.
Oh,
that we're gonna
yes.
give you.
I love it. I just told Curtis how much I love the
There it
logo.
is right
That's
there.
amazing.
We have the navy blue that Curtis is rocking right there, and we also have a white one.
That's perfect. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see which one's my color. I don't know.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Where can people follow you, maybe on social media, or follow the First Point Foundation to learn more?
So follow First Point Volleyball on Instagram and Facebook. I have a North Carolina boys high school Instagram
Perfect.
that I post a lot on. So if you want to see how a state is growing the game that way, I think
great.
that's a good
Yeah.
resource to see, what is she even posting? What kind of content are the guys reacting to? And we're up to almost 1,500 followers.
There
so
we
we're
go.
kind of
Okay.
a big deal.
Yeah.
We're going viral. But it's a place to start. And I think posting consistently is very important. That might not be relevant to that comment.
That goes
but
in just to help the growth and exposure for boys volleyball too. Social media is such a huge tool for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I thank you guys for doing this. I think this is a great outlet. Podcasts are so popular right now, especially with the younger generation.
Yeah.
And I think that just the more touch points people can have about the growth of the game in general, but obviously I'm biased, boys volleyball is huge. So thank you for shedding light into that area today.
Of course, you're welcome. Yeah, we're happy to. That's all part of our mission here on the podcast. Yeah.
Just setting the platform for people like you to come and just say what you want.
Well, it's very much appreciated.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And hope we have many more conversations with you down the road, and we'll have to have you back on too.
Anytime. Love to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Such an awesome conversation with Sarah. Just really appreciate her time taking away from the convention. I know she had, a lot of sessions that she was attending, people that she was talking to around the event as well. But really appreciate her taking the time to talk boys volleyball with us and all the work that First Point Volleyball Foundation is doing, and just the boys volleyball landscape as a whole. And then, of course, sharing, her experience there in the Carolina region as well, working with boys volleyball, and just all the excitement and energy around volleyball as a whole is just so infectious right now, and just so awesome to see. And then just the little niche in there with boys volleyball as well, growing so much already with states now sanctioning it as as a high school sport. And it's just continuing to grow from there. So excited to see, what more that the First Point Volleyball Foundation is going to do here coming up. We just talked about the First Point Volleyball Challenge there that they had with the men's volleyball collegiate challenge in Austin. We were talking about that at the top of the show. So yeah, just excited to see all the work that First Point Volleyball is doing, and of course all the work that Sarah is doing as well. And again, thank you so much, Sarah, for taking the time to talk with us. Let's move on to upcoming events. Severin, take it away.
Yeah, let's talk upcoming events, shall we? The Salt Lake City Showdown Girls 18s National Qualifiers, the first one we're going to mention, that's January 24th through 26th in Salt Lake City, Utah. The ABC Dallas Girls 18s National Qualifier, January 31st through February 2nd in Dallas, Texas. Plus, don't forget, if you're at this event, be sure to check out the U.S. men's sitting national team friendlies against Japan. So you get a 2-for-1 there. That'll be so cool to go check out if you're in Dallas for that event. Then the Northern Lights Girls 18s National Qualifier, January 31st through February 2nd in Minneapolis. Then you've got the Ohio Valley Girls 18s National Qualifier, January 31st through February 2nd, also in Columbus. And the Florida Fest Boys and Girls 18s National Qualifiers, February 1st through 3rd in Orlando. So we're hitting a lot of familiar cities, but with a lot of awesome events that just deliver year after year. So excited to get this portion of the event season underway. And if you forget all these events, if you want a refresher on what the dates are, please, as always, head to our calendar page at usavolleyball.org.
Yeah, super cool that the U.S. men's sitting team is getting some friendlies against Japan. Not only cool for them, who, they get international competition while staying home too. And OKC, or Oklahoma, Edmond is not that far from Dallas. But for the event itself and all the attendees there, so cool for them to be able to check out some sitting volleyball and meet some of our national team members. So in between your schedule there of competition, go check out the sitting volleyball courts and then stick around to meet those athletes. Just hear some cool stories, and maybe they'll even teach you a thing or two with sitting volleyball. But as always, if there is a guest you think we should have on the podcast, or a topic that you'd like to learn more about, or maybe just a club or coach or someone that you think should be featured, you can email us at the usabshow@usab.org. Let us know how much you're loving the show. And of course, thank you so much for all your continued support. As a reminder, new episodes drop every other week. And until next time, thank you for listening to the USA Volleyball Show, the official podcast of USA Volleyball.
This has been the USA Volleyball Show with Clarence Hughes and Stephen Munson. Produced by Curtis Ward. Our content producer is Laura Fawcett. Our marketing lead is Bree Jaycox. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to rate and review. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the USA Volleyball Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.